As a player, does the World Cup feel bigger to the Euros?
Massive, yeah. The best feeling that I ever had was when I played in '98. So, like, walking out for my first game.
I loved Graham Taylor so much.
Well, I did because he left me out of the squad.
Gazza gets left out of the '98 squad.
When Gazza found out, I've never seen a man more devastated in all my life.
And do you think, actually, in retrospect, it was the right decision not to take him?
No, I don't. He was that good, honestly.
And was he good for squad harmony?
It was fun.
I guess in a long and decorated career, there are ups and downs.
Of course there are. As a goalkeeper, you're going to make mistakes. You know, I've had a couple of like quite high profile ones. I'm on the pitch after Ronaldinho scored, thinking to myself, am I going to get treated like Beckham if the scoreline stays the same?
Hello, I'm Matt Forde, and from talkSPORT, this is How to Win the World Cup. I'm speaking to the great and good from the world of football to find out what it takes to win the greatest prize on earth. No, not an all-expenses-paid year off in Benidorm, the World Cup. Today, we are considering the impact of squad harmony.
I think we were all egotistical losers.
Now it's on us to form a strong group that is more than just individuals.
We're joined by one of England's greatest ever goalkeepers, David Seaman. Arsenal fan, comedian and podcaster in that order, Jacob Hawley is back. Jacob, incredibly, you became a father at the weekend.
Yeah, 3 days ago. I'm supposed to be on paternity leave right now, but when you called and told me that the guest is David Seaman, paternity leave gets cut short for that man.
And is this your first child?
Third.
Okay.
I'm a veteran now. This is I just roll with it.
But you don't look sleep deprived at all.
I've got a lot of makeup on.
You look fresh, though. You look really fresh, seriously.
Do you know what? It's at this point, I've been sleep deprived for so long. I'm in my mid-30s, and this is after I spent much of my 20s sleep deprived for different reasons. I'm just used to it now. You know what I mean? I think I'd feel worse if I had a full night's sleep, if I didn't hear screaming all night.
But you haven't got those like sunken eyes. You've got really good. I don't know what your skincare regime is, but it's working, man.
I'm trying to sleep where I can. I mean, it's I'm a professional comedian / podcaster. It's not can't pretend I'm back down the factory. You know what I mean?
Right, not working the salt mines.
I've got a very easy job, but yeah, enjoying it so far. Enjoying Fur Kid.
And do your children have Arsenal-related names?
No, not Arsenal-related names, but they are Arsenal fans. The big Arsenal fans. I take
already after 3 days.
Well, my little girl was born just in time to watch 4-0 over Wigan. She's looking forward to the North London derby. My elder two have been to. I haven't taken them to men's games yet, but they've been to a lot of women's games. The Arsenal women are amazing at the Emirates. They sell loads of tickets, and I'm lucky enough to take my kids. Problem is, my son is a massive Bukayo Saka fan, and he doesn't really understand how ugly it sounds to have this young thug turning up at women's games demanding to know where Saka is, not appreciating the female players and just shouting where's the men.
You've raised a real sexist.
Yeah this little 3-year-old boy who just can't accept how good some Alexa Russo and everyone else are for the women's team and just demanding that Saka and Declan Rice turn up.
So you're holding off on taking him to men's games, what, because of the culture?
No,
or the price?
It's partly the price. It's partly that it's I've been fortunate enough to be a season ticket holder for a long time now. I remember less than 10 years ago, you could get a ticket for 20 quid where people just didn't want to go. Now it's genuinely really, really hard to get a ticket. But I really love that my kids go to women's games. They really enjoy it. And like my daughter, for example, she's 5. She comes away from women's games talking about how she wants to be a footballer. And I don't think when I was young that was the case for girls going to football games. So it's like they just genuinely love it and they're really into it.
And it allows you to sound progressive.
100%.
It makes you sound like a good man.
I can say whatever I like on the various horrible podcasts that I do every single week, and so long as I snap up a picture of myself at a women's game, put it on my Instagram account, I'm sort of net zero. Do you know what I mean?
You've offset.
In terms of my toxicity as a human being, I'm net zero.
Okay. We've got David Seaman on today.
Yes.
One of the greatest goalkeepers in England and Arsenal history.
Yeah.
Do you remember him playing?
100%. I mean, the thing is, I'm at an age where I was quite young when he was an Arsenal keeper, but I remember the Sheffield United FA Cup save. And it is... We don't talk about goalkeepers very often in football. And nowadays, modern keepers, it's about passing out from the back and all this woke nonsense, as I'm just about old enough to call it. But that save is still referenced in commentary. that like, I still hear. Yes. I think Ramsdale made a save when he was an Arsenal keeper a couple of years ago against Leicester from a free kick, and again the ball was somewhat behind him, and it was almost that hooking action with a right hand to keep it out. And I remember commentators then being like, "It's like David Seaman," and it's like that was nearly 30 years ago. How good, how iconic must a save be that it's still his save, it's still his action. And I remember them watching that, and then, of course, watching him go to Manchester City, still being a great keeper, but predominantly for England. I mean, as I've said this on this pod before, but like, you know, my memories of that 2002 World Cup with Seaman in goal. I mean, you know, things happened in that tournament, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But we went into that tournament, I still felt we had one of the best keepers on the planet. And nowadays, you categorise keepers into kind of cool, calm, and collected, and mad.
Yes,
right. Whereas Seaman was almost a separate category of just lovely. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was so affable, and he was active on the pitch. He wasn't one of these like icemen that you get, but he was just lovely. And you just really got the feeling, especially amongst that sort of famous back five that Arsenal had, indeed, when you count Keown within it as well, that he was such a core part of that, you know, with Adams and Winterburn and Lee Dixon and Bolden. So like, he just felt like such a big part of a squad. So I think it's great you've got him in to talk about squad harmony, because it's like, if you want squad harmony, you want David Seaman. This is
such a nice man.
He's the loveliest man in football.
And there's a jolliness to him.
Oh, yeah.
You got that lovely deep voice.
Yeah,
and he's always up
massive hands.
Man. I mean, goalkeepers are real men.
Yeah.
They're big men.
Yeah. Even the modern ones. Even where it's gone modern and trendy. I did a thing for Arsenal at their training ground a little while ago, and you think of David Raya. He had facial reconstructive surgery. I don't know if you knew this about David Raya.
Yes.
Yeah, he came out to collect a ball. Player went through him. And if you see pictures of David Raya before and after, he looked like a goalkeeper before. Now he looks like a Calvin Klein model, where they reconstructed his face, right?
No way.
But I met him at the training ground. He's still huge. You know, even David Raya at Arsenal, he's you know, Edison at City, for example. Yeah. They're the sort of modern, they kick it, they're basically midfielders. They're not. They're still massive men with huge hands. You know, I think the goalkeeping position is the last one in football where it's still like proper men doing it.
It is.
You know?
They're just sort of less fat than they used to be.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't fear change. Sometimes it's positive. What about squad harmony then? Have you ever been part of a team? Because obviously comedians are lone wolves. Yeah,
somewhat. I mean, I do so many podcasts nowadays. I think where sort of comedy and I mean, indeed, entertainment has gone, it's all podcasting now, right?
Yeah.
So you are invariably part of little teams and stuff like that. And I think it's interesting now, like, Liam Rossini at Chelsea, for example, has come in with all this sort of LinkedIn language, and it feels like he feels like he'd take that team to Legoland to cheer them up. You know what I mean? It's team bonding exercises and stuff like that. But I think more so than ever, there is a focus on that and everyone getting on. And indeed, that golden generation that England had 20 years or so ago, under Sven, under Capello, it's like, maybe that was the missing ingredient. Maybe that was, and you hear ex-players talk about it now, that there was the United table and the Liverpool table and the Chelsea table. And it's interesting talking to David, because the Arsenal table was pretty small for a long time. Despite us having a great team when he was a part of that, you don't think of them all as having huge England careers, you know?
It's time to welcome our very special guest, one of the greatest goalkeepers Arsenal and England have ever had. It's David Seaman.
I think we were all egotistical losers.
Yeah.
Because I watch the telly now and I see Carragher sitting next to Paul Scholes on this fan debate, and he looked like they'd been best mates for 20 years. And I see Carragher's relationship with Gary Neville, he looked like they'd been mates for 20 years.
The days were tedious and long. There wasn't much help or inspiration from the management in regarding getting you together and doing more, but maybe, you know, he talks about immaturity. Sometimes I suppose you are as players.
Certainly the squads that I was in, it was maybe a little bit more separated, a little bit where you had little groups. But when I look at the England team now, they're all together, they kind of interact, and it was a little bit like that, and maybe that did hinder them a little bit.
And what was going on, you felt the disconnect within the camp, and you know that you can't win tournaments like that. Fair play to Gareth Southgate, he went in and he brought togetherness back together.
That's what it was like back then. It wasn't fun to go away on international duty. Now it is.
Despite our own nationalistic belief that we were very good, maybe we just weren't as good as the opposition, and that is about long, short and tall of it.
David, welcome to How to Win the World Cup. You played in 2 World Cups and 2 Euros. From a fan's point of view, I just see them all as major tournaments and they're all amazing. But as a player, does the World Cup feel bigger to the Euros?
Massive. Yeah, for me it was. I remember my first one that I played in was 98. I was in the 1990 squad, Italia 90. I was third choice then. So it was Shilton, Chris Woods and then me. And then in training I broke my thumb. I just signed for Arsenal. So I had to go home and then Dave Besant replaced me.
So 92?
So that would have been, was that Graham Taylor?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a story as well. he took Chris Woods and Nigel Martin and left me at home.
Why?
Devastated.
Did he tell you why?
No, he just said, I'm just taking Nigel. And the worst thing about it was as well, right, it gets worse than that. The worst thing about it was, so we were in the hotel, like in our rooms, waiting for the phone call. If you got a phone call, you weren't, obviously they were telling you that you're not in the squad. So me and Lee Dixon were in our room. Lee's injured, so he's not going anyway. I'm waiting, no phone call. So I go to the meeting. I walk into the meeting, all the players are there, and I noticed Chris Woods, Nigel Martin, and I was like thinking, we don't take 3 goalkeepers.
Oh no!
And then Laurie McMenemy tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, "I'm sorry, David. I need to have a word with you outside." So I'd walked into the meeting, and then got told.
Why didn't they call you? Why didn't they give you the call?
Don't know. Forgot.
But this is pre-mobiles, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're just ringing you in your hotel room.
Yeah, just in the hotel room. But it was wasn't very happy.
That must be mortifying because you know all the lads, your friends.
Yeah, I know, and I knew as soon as I walked in, I spotted like there was the other 2 goalies there, and I was thinking, well, one of us is in the wrong position.
Oh no!
So then 94, we don't qualify.
Yeah.
Famously, were you part of that squad?
I played at the last 2 games, which were Holland and
San Marino. The Stuart Pearce back pass.
8 seconds.
Man. Oh my God. Because we actually get the amount of goals we need against San Marino.
Yeah.
But we needed Poland to beat Holland.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh man, that campaign, that documentary.
I know. Yeah. But that game, the Holland game, like when, was it
Koeman? Breaks down Platt. Yeah. And it should have been a red.
Yeah.
And then he's going to flick one. He's going to flick one.
Oh no! I wish I got an earpiece in for that one.
No, exactly. Why did they let you know? You should have been waving. They're England fans. What did it feel like having like a camera crew around all the time and in all those private spaces?
You didn't really notice that much, if I'm honest, as a player. Because you used to get on with it. I think obviously the manager was being interviewed a lot more than what we were. And it's like nowadays, it's like when you see all the Netflix stuff and that, when all the cameras, they're on, you forget that they're there. So it was a bit like that with that one. And that was like early days, weren't it?
Yeah, have you ever watched it back?
No. not good memories, if I'm honest.
But it was, there's never been a documentary made like that. All the new ones are quite sanitised. That was full on.
Yeah.
And it's obviously England not qualifying for a World Cup.
Exactly.
And a really good man in Graham Taylor being vilified by the media, and they really show all that.
No, but and being cheated out of it as well.
Oh, man.
That game, that was just shocker.
When he sends the linesman, just let your friend know he's cost me my job. That's the saddest thing. I loved Graham Taylor so much.
Well, I do, because he left me out the squad. But to be fair to him, so I used to live in Rickmansworth, and that's where Graham used to live. And I was in Rickmansworth High Street. This is just after Euro '96, so I did okay. And I went into a picture framing shop because I was going to get some of my shirts done. And he followed me into the shop, and he looked at me and he says, "I just need to do this," and he started like bowing towards me, and he was like, "I'm so proud of you."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But the whole country was proud of you after Euro '96.
Yeah.
I mean that. Yeah. When you think back on your career, is that the high point?
Well, no, because that's what I was going to say when you said about the World Cup being so special. So the best feeling that I ever had was when I played in '98. So like walking out for my first game, and like I'm from Rotherham, and we didn't have a lot when I grew up as a kid and stuff like that, and also being told by Leeds, my club, who I've supported all my life, that I weren't good enough at 19 to then get to play for my club, for my country, in a World Cup.
So when you're told you're not good enough at that age, obviously that would destroy some people.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that, and did you use that to improve?
Yeah, but at 19, you don't know how to do it, do you? I didn't. And I thought that was it. I was done as a footballer. And it weren't until about a week later, I got a call from Peterborough because the guy that had just took over managerial job at Peterborough was Martin Wilkinson, who was a coach at Leeds, and he found out that I'd been released. And he got me down there. I didn't even know where Peterborough was. I say, where is Peterborough now? You know, and it was like, it's a long way from Rotherham.
Yeah, basically somewhere in between Nottingham and London. You're just like, it's in that sort of weird bit.
No one's life gets better for knowing where Peterborough is. As someone who's been there a lot over the years.
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
It's interesting that the story, Dave, you say about coming out of Leeds, being released, and then working up through Peterborough.
Yeah.
But you hear more of those stories now. I think of like Eze at Arsenal, Semenyo's now at City. He followed that pathway. And do you think you get something a bit extra as a player when it's that path, when it's thinking it's gone and then working your way up and then getting there again? Do you think it gives you psychologically a little bit of something that other players might not have?
I think so, because then you want to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I did. I'd never forget, it was Eddie Gray that told me, you know, he took me in his office and said, like, I'm going to have to let you go. And ever since then, you know, it's always been about proving Eddie and Leeds wrong, you know, and obviously I went back to Leeds as a Birmingham City player, then a lot of the times as an Arsenal player.
Yeah.
You know, so it's you know, people go, oh yeah, but you're a Leeds fan. What about when you played Leeds? And I'm like, yeah, but then I was like, there's a match bonus at stake and all that sort of stuff.
He's got pictures to frame. He wants that clean sheet.
All the Leeds fans would all be singing at me, "You're Leeds and you know you are," and I'd just turn around and put my thumb up, and I'd be thinking, yeah, but you ain't scoring.
So France '98, you walk out as an England player. You know, it's such a proud moment in your life. Looking back on that tournament then, because obviously there's been a lot of focus on it with the Beckham documentary and everything. What was the mood in the camp like? Was there a good squad harmony?
Yeah, I felt there was. It was beginning to get. There was a few like little cliques starting, you know, because there was a lot of Arsenal players. So in the canteen or the restaurant, there'd be the Arsenal table, there'd be the Man United table, and then there'd be the others. You know, but I was aware of, you know, I heard you talking earlier on about team harmony and everything. And I remember like thinking like, this ain't going to be good, you know. So like I was like, right, I'm going to go over there and sit with them, or I'm going to sit on the Man United table, and, you know, just to try and mix it up, you know, before it started getting really bad.
So you actually made an effort to overcome the cliques.
A little bit, yeah. You know, it was just that it felt awkward. You know, I wasn't really aware of it becoming like the cliques at that time. You know, but I just felt it's not right. This.
And why do you think it was starting to develop then in a way that it hadn't developed in previous tournaments?
Well, because I don't think there was that many Arsenal players and that many Man United players. You know, it was, you know, plus then there was the rivalry as well, you know, in the 90s with Arsenal and Man United. Even down to the point of, so when Arsene came in, 96, you know, we were on a special diet, and the England doctor was Arsenal's club doctor as well. So we would go away with England, eating the same food as what we were eating under Arsene Wenger. And then Gary Neville's like, hang on, Doc, what are they eating? Because it's a team thing, we should be on that. And then obviously he saw what we were eating and went back to Man United and reported all that.
So actually you improved the nutrition of Man United.
But not me, the Doc. And Arsene Wenger.
Let's blame Gary Neville. Let's blame Gary Neville.
Because then obviously you get to the point where the so-called golden generation, about 2006, the impression is from the outside that it was almost like the camp was riven. That those divisions have become so much deeper.
I've heard the stories of that, and you know, and that ain't going to be good, you know. But even like when back in my day when the players, there was little bits of it, you know, but there was still like tackles going in, you know, like. Martin doesn't forget anything, right? You know, whether somebody's booted him on the pitch or on the training ground, he will get you back at some time. and I remember him, like, I'm sure he knocked Teddy up in the ground, you know, knocked him off his feet, and you know, and then he was like, yeah, remember when he done me at so and so, you know, so all that was still going on.
You're still going to get rivalries.
And that 2002 World Cup, that was almost the prime of Arsenal and United being. I mean, those games were mad. I mean, like you look back at footage of the tunnels, just the United and Arsenal tunnels, and people couldn't look at each other. And then to imagine them then just joining up a few times a season and then going away in the summer and trying to form a team together. When I think about that now, I think that must be crazy.
Yeah, but like the thing is as well, though, when you look at it and then you mix them teams as well, you know, and it becomes an England team, it's special.
Yeah.
So that for me would go out the window, you know, because even talking about Gary again, we'd have played together. You know, he was in Euro '96 as a really young fullback. So we had all that time with him, '98 and everything and all that. And then even in the tunnel, at Man United, Arsenal, he would not look at you. He would not shake your hand. And I'd be like, I don't know whether he was doing it just because that's what he did, or whether he was doing it to wind us up, because it certainly wound me up.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how come you can't say hello? It's in the tunnel, mate.
It's completely go against your personality.
Yeah. No,
Such a happy, sociable guy.
Yeah, but he would just like look straight down the tunnel and not get distracted at all.
But in fairness to Gary, like Patrick Vieira wasn't doing loads of handshakes. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal gave as good as they got in those days.
It's just the guy who went and told Roy.
Did you ever get drawn into any of that?
There was one bit where Righty, I think it was Oldham away, and Righty went up the tunnel because you used to have to go up some steps there to get to the dressing room from the pitch, and a woman spat at Righty, and Righty turned around and spat down at the floor, but the policeman at the top of the stairs only saw Righty spitting. Next thing, he's got Righty up with his hand around his neck up against the wall.
The copper.
And the policeman, yeah, and I go in, I see this policeman doing this to Righty, so I rearrange the policeman to get Righty out of the way, and then the whole scuffle went into the dressing rooms and everything. And then at half time, next thing, he's knocking on the door. The police are wanting to like have a word with me and Righty. At half time.
The police. So you were almost at risk of arrest. What under the charge of assaulting a police officer?
I think so. Yeah.
The word he used was rearranging.
He did him a favour. He was untidy. So Gazza gets left out of the '98 squad, and that was such a big national moment because in the run up to it, he'd been trying to lose weight. I remember him training with a bin bag. Did the rest of the squad want him there?
Definitely. You know, we knew what Gazza was. You know. He's a nightmare, you know, and I found that out through Euro '96. Terry would say to me, David, take him fishing and getting on my nerves and he's getting hyper. I'm like, God, I've got to babysit him again. But then, to the '98 thing, we were playing golf in the morning, all the lads, and my 3-ball or 4-ball was me, Gary Neville, Ian Walker, and Gazza, and those three never went. You know, so.
Oh, that's awkward.
No, not Gary Neville, Phil Neville. Yeah, Phil Neville, Ian Walker, and Gazza. And when Gazza found out, because I was rooming next to him, looking after him again, I've never seen a man more devastated in all my life.
Wow.
He absolutely battered him.
And he took it out in the hotel room.
Yeah. And then we got in his room. It weren't too bad. I think he rearranged Glenn's room a little bit.
He's an interior designer. He's just expressing himself.
And then we got him settled down, but he was that bad. He didn't even want to get on the plane with the lads because there was a private plane waiting for the lads to go home. He was trying to arrange his own transport and everything. He was a broken man at that time. Got him out of his room. And as we opened the door, there was this massive flower design and everything displaying, and he just chucked it everywhere.
Rearranged it.
Yeah.
And do you think, actually, in retrospect, it was the right decision not to take him?
No, I don't, because with someone like Gazza, you can always bring him on, and he'll have an impact as a sub, even if he can't last the whole game. If you brought him on for the last half hour, 20 minutes, he was that good, honestly. You know, you ask all the players that played with him, trained with him, they all say it. They all say the same, that he's the best player that they've played with, English player. And
was he good for squad harmony?
It was fun.
Because that's it. You like to
I know.
It worked.
Yeah, I think he was. You know, because he was great entertainment. You know, and when you're stuck in a hotel for that long on tour or in World Cups and things, you need people like that. You know, like him, like Righty, Incy. They were all like Dennis Wise. These were like big characters that were in my squads.
Righty didn't go to '98 either, did he?
No.
Do you think, maybe more the Gazza decision, do you think there was almost a level of resentment from the rest of the squad that Gazza didn't go? Do you think as a squad you missed his personality as much as his talent?
A little bit. Yeah, not resentment though.
Not towards the manager necessarily, but you just missed having him there.
Yeah, you did. You know, because you knew how good a player he was. And then, you know, like I said, the antics he used to get up. You know, it was great to watch.
You smile every time you think about him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
And what that gives a squad. I mean, we were just saying about like you're travelling together every day, you're training together every day. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of golf as well. It's like missing having a personality like that.
There was a lot of golf where the golf balls weren't fetched back.
I bet, yeah.
It was like a green. The greenkeeper in the morning must have gone onto the green and gone, "Oh my God, look at all the balls that are here." just to leave them.
Keep them busy.
Just practicing.
So you need entertainment value. You need other players that are funny and kind of extroverted. What other characters do you need for good squad harmony?
You need a couple of serious ones. You know, the ones that can calm it down when it needs to be calmed down.
Who are they?
It's normally the older players, isn't it? You know, so like me, like Tony, Gareth. Who else would be? Dave Batty wasn't. No, he had a little mischievousness about him. I was going to say Shearer, but no way. He was mischievous.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a prankster. Yeah.
What, like practical jokes?
Yeah, I loved him. Yeah.
How serious would it get?
Like throwing water bombs and all sorts of things. Yeah.
It's like kids, really, isn't it?
But we're all like we're in a hotel, you know, or we're away from everything. We can't even go out for a walk because security don't want you to go anywhere. So you're just stuck in hotels, and you know, in the World Cup in 2002, I remember. So we had like the whole floor or 2 floors of the hotel, and one floor it was just like an amusement arcade. They kitted it all out as a massive, giant amusement arcade.
Great.
Yeah.
What was your favourite?
Darts. I used to love the darts. I had 180 in Japan. As I say,
wow.
To fame.
Well, there you go. You had a good tournament.
Yeah. We're not talking about the rest, eh?
I feel bad. I don't sort of want to mention it. You kind of, in a way, you kind of, you know, we have to go there a little bit. I mean, do you... I guess in a long and decorated career, there are ups and downs.
Of course there are. As a goalkeeper, you're going to make mistakes. You know, I've had a couple of like quite high profile ones. You know, and you talked about like how Beckham got treated. You know, and we've seen that in his documentary. In '98, I'm on the pitch after Ronaldinho scored, thinking to myself, "Am I going to get treated like Beckham if the scoreline stays the same?"
And what was the treatment you got?
It was good.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember flying back home to Heathrow, and there was like a lot of fans waiting. And as soon as I got off the plane, they started singing my name. So it was a relief, if I'm honest. You know, because you never know. You know, I'd still get people mention. You know, everybody mentions it all the time now. You know, so but it's what it is. It's it's part of my history. You know, and so you get on with it. But I'm lucky. I've got a lot of good memories as well. You know, winning trophies and.
And you saved a penalty in the shootout against Argentina in '98. Yeah. At least one, maybe 2.
Just one, I think.
Just one, yeah. Early on.
And then
maybe the first.
Inti came up next and missed, didn't it? Or the goalie saved it. And I think then Batty missed the deciding one, didn't he? Yeah.
Because you saved some big ones, obviously against Scotland in Euro '96.
Yeah, Spain as well.
Yeah, a couple in the shootout.
Yeah.
That Scotland one with McAllister. Do you see the ball move before he hits it?
Yeah. But it only just starts to like move a little bit, just oscillated a tiny bit. And that's why I feel that he went for pace. Because normally I faced Gary before when he was at Liverpool and Leeds. He would pick sides and bend it, but he put his laces through it. I think that's because it was moving. You know,
and you catch it on the elbow.
Yeah, because he'd hit it that hard. I'd gone to my right, and I knew that I couldn't get my hand there in time, so I just stuck my elbow and I he caught it like right on the end. It was belted and just and went over the crossbar, and like the relief, and more so the relief on Tony Adams' face as well, because he gave the penalty away. Yeah.
It's kind of unique to tournament football, that, isn't it? The impact a keeper can have on a game with those penalty saves. We've seen it with Pickford recently, of what he's done in tournaments, and it that can be such a huge moment for a team. If you feel like a game's going against you, but a keeper can pull off a save like that, whether it's a penalty or just a big chance, it flips how a team feels.
And at that stage, we were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
So I saved the penalty. 90 seconds later, Gazza goes and scores his goal.
Yeah,
90
right
seconds.
down the other end. It's
Ball went out for a corner.
Moment.
It comes in. I think I get it, or the ref whatever. Anyway, then I pass it to Teddy, or give it to Teddy, and then he puts Gazza through, and there you go. And it told me glory.
And it's little moments like that, isn't it? It's little moments that can just impact tournaments so much.
Yeah.
So the squad mood in '98 is quite good, despite Gazza not going and all the rest of it. How did it compare with Sven? Like, what was he like? What sort of atmosphere did he create compared to?
It was hard with Sven, or I found it hard, because Swedish guy, he's first foreign manager that I've ever had as an England manager, and I didn't get it. Obviously tactically he was decent, but I'm a goalkeeper, so I very rarely listen to the tactic side of it. That's why I've never been a coach.
You're just not bothered.
Not bothered about that bit. Just let me sort of keep that ball out the net. I didn't get it with Sven. When you look back at who I've had, like Bobby Robson, Graham Taylor, Kevin Keegan,
Venables,
Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah,
Terry was like the best. He was the best motivator, and you just felt that passion with him. With Sven, I didn't get that.
And did he create a good atmosphere in the group?
Yeah, it seemed okay. It seemed because we went to Korea first, played a game in Korea, I think it was, and then went to Japan. It was good. It was successful up until that Brazil game.
And what's your view on? Because I remember under Capello, he was like, the wags are banned, you're not allowed ketchup, all that sort of thing.
That's not a good start for a manager, I tell you. You start doing that and you upset the players straight away.
Yeah. I think it's hard with international. It's hard with international, right? Because you do that at club level, you're working together every single day. There can be a bit of give and take. Whereas
if you go home and get your ketchup,
right? Well, I guess with international managers, you're seeing them 4 times a season, then going away every couple of years. If you've got a bad taste about that, I mean, not enough of a bad taste if you haven't got your ketchup. But if you're getting fed up, you must lose the dressing room quite quickly with stuff like that.
And one of his other tricks was like everybody's got to eat together. And then the last person to finish is the signal of when everybody can leave. So if you finish your dinner early, you've got to wait for the last person to finish theirs. I wasn't involved in these. I've been told this, so it didn't go down well.
So what treats would you have? You play darts, but what were your vices? Chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate.
What's your favourite chocolate?
Anything Cadbury's.
Yeah.
Dairy milk's
it's the best. Dairy milk and a cup of tea.
Yeah. Dairy and
you can't beat it.
I haven't got a sweet tooth, so
You're kidding?
No, I don't eat any of this stuff.
Me and Lee Dietzen, so we used to room together for Arsenal and England, and not so much with England, but with Arsenal, we used to take it in turns when it was an away game. We went just over the road to the supermarket to get a big bag of chocolate. Peter Beardsley used to come down from Newcastle, and on his way down, he would stop at Cadbury's, go in, get a load of his shapes and all that sort of thing, and bring it to the hotel.
Amazing.
We're like, is Pete in yet?
It is like key. It's weird listening to it, isn't it? Because I think we forget that these are guys in their 20s, but it's like listening to a load of scouts who've gone away for a camp together. Do you know?
But it's just us being us, isn't it? And we're in a space where we can be.
Yeah.
You're not worried about people like videoing you or taking a picture of you because you're in the hotel, and it's like when you go out in the pub, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a good laugh.
How much of that was there with England? Was there much going out at night, drinking, anything like that?
No. You
Really?
couldn't, because you couldn't get out, because security didn't want you out, plus, whenever a few of them went out, there was always trouble, but I remember Ince's room was called the Queen Vic. During your 96, because some of the lads, because there's a couple of lads that smoked and that, they go in there and have a smoke, or there'd be a beer or a glass of wine, all that, and all the lads would, a lot of the lads would go in there just to have a chat and stuff, and that's why it was called the Queen Vic,
right? Makeshift weapons, all sorts of things, contraband. Gareth Southgate, obviously, you're a 96 teammate of yours, created a great atmosphere around the England squad when he became manager, and it seemed like he took a lot of the pressure off that had built up. Looking at the way Thomas Tuchel's doing things, what sort of, do you get any sense about what impact he's having on squad harmony?
Everything seems to be okay from what I can see. Gareth was brilliant at getting the players to talk to the press again. But actually answering the questions. Because like the players would go in and they give you like so much faff. They wouldn't really answer the question. But now the lads, when they go into interviews, they're bang on it. They answer the questions and then they move on. But I think that was down to Gareth. Where he got that relationship back together again. And I think Thomas is just doing exactly the same. Like you don't change that because that was good. And it's like the level that Gareth has brought to England, that's good as well. So he just needs to try and just add that cherry on top.
Was it France '98 where the England players had the game where they would get in song lyrics into the post-match interviews?
Yeah.
Did you ever get any?
Yeah, oh mate, I did the worst ever interview. Right, I think it was with Gary Newborn. Because I was trying to get we were trying to get Phil Collins' title songs in there. and I was like trying to think, and I was forgetting the questions and all sorts. It was a joke. Like I know Shearer was really good at it. Gareth was good at it. Yeah, but yeah, we did. We were trying to do it. That's how bored you get.
But I guess you're exhausted. You just played 90 minutes.
No, this was like in the build-up.
Oh,
no, it wasn't always straight after the game. It was like any interview that you had. We had like certain artists' songs that we had to try and get in.
So it was Phil Collins. I guess you could say, well, it's in the air tonight.
Yeah.
It's another day in paradise. You know, we've got a great setup here, playing darts.
You've been all right, haven't you?
But then I can't remember any others.
No. Yeah.
Would Genesis be allowed?
I would have thought so, yeah. But it was just, yeah, it was fun. And then, like, the lads would be watching the interviews and they'd be like, yeah.
Because that's you want you to have fun, don't you? I mean, it's so hard with England because the fans simultaneously want you to be relaxed and loose and having a great time, but the pressure that we all put on
but then it was our own fault. You look at just before Euro '96.
Oh my God, the Far East.
And went to Singapore.
Dentist chair.
Yeah, all that. You know, we did play the pub 11 before and beat them about 26-0. And then a few of the lads went out. I didn't go. I fell asleep.
Too much chocolate.
Do you know what I was watching? I was watching Arsenal versus Sheffield Wednesday Cup final in my room after the game. I just put it on, like I was getting ready, and I fell asleep watching it.
That's so wholesome.
And then the lads went out, and then I went for breakfast the next day, and then started hearing all the stories. But you know, that's when it went too far.
Yeah.
And then everybody, there was a lot of press, and then they were trying to get Gazza out of the squad.
So you go to the breakfast in the morning. You got no inkling about what's going on.
Yeah.
And what's like the first sign of danger?
Just that they're all laughing. You know, like, oh, remember when? And I'm like, what happened? And then all the story starts coming out, you know, about where they were tearing each other's shirts off. And Brian Robson, even Brian, one of the coaches, he went in. He got a brand new Versace shirt that his wife had just bought him, and the lads just walked in and went.
And did they realise at that point they'd been photographed?
God.
So they were just like, oh, it's hijinks. They didn't realise it was going to have a bigger impact.
No, of course, no, not that much. You know, because it was a night off, but it just went. Gazza's involved again. It just went a little bit too far.
Well,
and then even on the plane back, you know, the flight home, there was stuff going on there, you know, and things got broken on the plane, and then we get back, and then we see the whole storm that's waiting for us. You know, the press that found out that they wanted Gazza out, you know, but so then the public, I felt the fans then, like when he went against us a little bit, you know, and then it wasn't until we start going through Euro '96 that we start getting them back on board slowly.
It's interesting. I've seen managers in other countries talk about the pressure of the England job and how more so than any other job you have to consider the press, and you have to consider what the press might do with that squad, with those players, and with social media now, it's even more so. Right, for this group that are going to be going away this summer, it's even more so the case that if that goes and that relationship between the supporters and the squad changes, that must have a huge impact on the squad.
Oh, it just adds pressure. You know, when we went into that Euro '96 tournament, our first game was Switzerland at home, obviously at home. But we go into that and we were like so nervous in that game.
Yeah.
You know, because it was the start of the tournament and of all that had just gone on, and the negative press we were getting.
Well, it's so much has changed for the better. David, this has been such a pleasure. We're all now off to have hot chocolate on a dentist chair and have an early night watching old Arsenal version. Jacob, David, thank you both so much. Loads more episodes of this are available on YouTube on the podcast feed. So if you're listening for the first time, go back and check out some of our other episodes. And do get in touch on our Instagram page at How to Win the World Cup. And you can email us. It's wintheworldcup@talksport.co.uk. We'll see you next week.